Hello and welcome to the channel. I'm Aaron Veloce, and today we're going to be going over some pretty cool mods for Fanatec gear made by MZW Sim Hardware. So the products I got for today is the Lamborghini wheel mod, and this mounts to the Fanatec podium button module Endurance. Then I also got some forged carbon shifter paddles that replace the stock podium shifters. And then lastly, we got some forged carbon pedal plates. So these are some pretty cool mods that you can use to spruce up your existing Fanatec gear, kind of give them a new look or even different feel. MZW did send me these products to review, but that's not going to affect my opinion. I'll always give you my honest opinion, whether that be a good product or a bad product. So let's dive into the specs, and we'll start off with the wheel. Now, I personally chose the Lamborghini Huracan wheel mod, and this mounts to my existing podium button module Endurance. There are a ton of other options. He's got like a BMW wheel that kind of mimics the shape of that $1,500 super insane Fanatec wheel, so you kind of can get the same shape at a much cheaper price. He has one that I also really like is the Mercedes wheel that you can use with just a podium hub and shifters and like the added buttons, or like a Club Sport hub. So basically, depending on what hub you have, whether it be Club Sport or podium, and what button modules you're using, he has different wheels of different shapes and different car replicas that you can pick. Now, you do have a couple choices for the material options for the wheel. This one is forged carbon, but they also have like the traditional weaved carbon and steel as well. For my forged carbon wheel, it weighs 430 grams. The steel options tend to weigh just almost about double, just a little bit under double the weight, which might be important depending on how strong your wheelbase is, if you're using like a CSL DD versus like a DD1 or DD2, because wheel weight is always a factor, so more weight's going to kind of dampen it. Whether or not 400 grams or so is enough to really make a huge difference, maybe not, but maybe something to think about. I do like the look of the carbon ones, and they are very light. But if you like to save money, the steel options are cheaper, and they're powder coated, I believe. Now, the Lambo wheel I have here is 315 millimeters in diameter, which might feel a little big for a GT3 wheel. I think most people like around 300 or maybe 310, which they do have a McLaren wheel that is 310, but you are limited by the fact that we're using the podium button module Endurance, and obviously you need room for your thumbs and to not bump into the module. But 315 did feel pretty good. I didn't ever feel like I was, driving too big of a wheel. I thought it felt nice, and I definitely preferred it over the 320 millimeter Porsche wheel that comes by default with the podium button module Endurance. The carbon plate is 4 millimeters thick. If you do go with the steel option, that will be 3 millimeters thick. The fabric for the handles is not Alcantara, it's Indivitara. I don't know if I said that properly, but it pretty much feels just like Alcantara, and it does feel premium. And probably one of my favorite options about these wheels is you can get the grips in all different colors and combinations. And if you look at their Instagram or pictures online, there's a ton of cool combos that people have done that look really, really cool. And I really think that's an awesome feature for people who really like to personalize their rigs. The price of the forged carbon Lambo wheel comes in at 195 euros, or about 208 US dollars, but you can save money if you're going for the steel version. For the carbon fiber forged paddle set, you get a total of 10 paddles, and these replace the stock large paddle set and the small paddle set, while also replacing the gold aluminum clutch paddles. These are made from 3 millimeter forged carbon. The small paddles are basically a straight replacement of the original shape, while the large paddles have their own unique shape and improved ergonomics over the original large paddle set. The paddles come in at 50 euro, or about $53 US. Now onto the pedals. These are made out of 5 millimeter forged carbon, and each one has its own unique size and shape. The throttle comes in at 160 by 55 millimeters, the brake comes in at 120 by 80 millimeters, and the clutch comes in at 120 by 60 millimeters. You can use them with and without the extension brackets, and they're height adjustable by flipping them 180 degrees. Price comes in at 70 euro, or about 75 US dollars. Now, as cool as all the forged carbon looks, on to the most important part. Well, how does it feel? And honestly, I'm really happy with the build quality. There's no flex to the wheel at all. It's very solid. The paddles, everything is, you know, thick carbon and very strong. The handle grips are very, very nicely wrapped. No issues with the material or anything like that. The quality of the material feels really nice. Really, really no complaints there as well. I have another Huracan Lamborghini replica wheel from Sim Racing Bay for the SimiCube. And when it comes down to the shape of the grips between these two wheels, I actually prefer the MZW wheels grips. The MZW has these indents on the back of the handles that allow your fingers to sit more comfortably and overall gives you just a better and more comfortable grip. Which I thought was kind of funny because the Sim Racing Bay wheel is kind of more true to life, but I thought the MZW wheel felt better, so take that for what it is. Due to the wheel being 5mm smaller than the original Porsche wheel, that does also make access to the buttons just ever so slightly easier, which is always a bonus. And like I said earlier, the Indivitara fabric feels very similar to Alcantara in quality and in feel. I'm not truly sure if one's better than the other, but they both feel good. As much as I enjoy the feel of fabrics like these, they do tend to get matted down over time. So I would like maybe an option without the fabric or maybe like rubber molded grips. Ever since I've started using a Cube Controls wheel, I am a big fan of those rubber molded grips because they are super easy to clean and they don't catch every piece of dust, and obviously they won't get kind of, you know, matted down over time. If you are using any Alcantara or micro suede type material, I always highly recommend gloves because that'll help it last a little bit longer and keep it cleaner. And you feel more like a real race car driver. What's not to like? The grips do have these little tiny holes on the back. They're just basically how the grips are mounted on. And if you ever need to tighten them, that's how you would do it, by sticking a small Allen key in there. But they don't get in the way of anything. You don't even really feel them at all. So when it comes to aesthetics, those are always going to be pretty personal. I think the wheel looks friggin' awesome. The forged carbon looks fantastic. I think the shape of the wheel really fits with the podium button module endurance. It doesn't really look like an afterthought. I think it's nicely designed with the wheel. But if you don't care about the carbon, whether it be forged or weaved, I believe Lovely Stickers makes some stickers for their wheels as well. So you can do all kinds of cool customization that way too. I think one of the best things about the MZW wheel mods is using your existing hubs to get better GT wheels. I would use the Fanatec F1 wheel for GT3 driving and like ACC, and it always just felt too small. And the 320mm Porsche wheel, I never liked that it wasn't open top, which makes it a little bit difficult to see the in-game dash depending on how your setup is, and also didn't really give that GT3 feel. So the fact that you can just mod your existing gear and get a much more appropriate style wheel for GT3, which is the most popular driving, what I probably do most, definitely happy about that. Now, when it comes to the only con that I really see with this wheel, it comes down to where the grips come together. So there's like an upper grip and a lower grip, and you can see a seam there. That sits basically right where my pinkies sit, and it's not really enough to like annoy me, but I do think if that was lower, out of the way of my grip, that it would feel just a little bit better. It is less noticeable when you have gloves on too, so a minor con, but I do think that could be improved upon. But other than that, there's not really much else I can say about it. I mean, it's a wheel. It feels good. It's solid. Quality's good. It's lightweight carbon. That's good. Yeah, pretty happy with it. Now for the shifters. So I'm using the large forged carbon paddles, and that's because with the bigger wheel size of the 315mm wheel width, these smaller ones would kind of be like too small. And I actually like these a lot more than the stock paddles, and that's because you have better ergonomics for this top paddle, where it kind of similar to the small one. So here we have the Fanatec small one there, how it's even with the middle paddle to hit the top one. The same goes for the large paddles with the MZW, but they're just larger and farther out. So when you're using wider wheels, you can easily hit the top paddles. Whereas with the large paddles, which I just have the single one here, that secondary top paddle would be, you'd have to reach over and press. And with the MZW ones, you don't have to do any reaching over. I never really liked how those paddles felt with the large ones on the stock ones. So I do think that is a worthy improvement in ergonomics. For the small paddles, I mean, I guess you just got to be a real big lover of forged carbon, because that's really the only benefit you get out of replacing the stock ones. If you don't care about forged carbon, then these stock ones are just fine. And my only complaint with the MZW ones would be the edges could be just a little bit softer. I don't know how well you'll be able to see that. Let's see. So this is a default Fanatec one. This is the forged carbon MZW. But basically the edges, come on, there we go. The edges are just a little sharper on the MZW. Not like sharp that it's going to cut you or anything. But they're definitely just a little bit more rounded on the Fanatec ones. And it feels nicer on raw hands. This is just another minor nitpick that I think could be improved on. But once again, if you're wearing gloves, you probably wouldn't even notice a difference anyways. Now, to be honest, for the pedal plates, I wasn't expecting much. I was actually kind of thinking I was going to dislike them because they're perfectly flat and they don't have any type of, slight curvature to the face. But I was pleasantly surprised. I actually liked them a lot more than I thought I would. And them being completely flat and such a smooth surface actually turned out being pretty nice. Because of the flat and smooth surface, the throttle pedal slides underneath my foot perfectly, which allows my heel to stay anchored. One of the things I find really annoying is when the throttle pedal is too grippy and my heel lifts up with every throttle press, which means I have to readjust my foot position after every couple turns. So I was happy to see that's not an issue with these pedal plates. The brake pedal plate is very big, which is nice. It's about the same width as the stock pedal plate, but it is a lot taller. And I do think the shape and size of the throttle and brake complement each other well for heel-toe braking. Now, because of the smooth and flat shape of the brake pedal, one benefit I see from this is adding some grip tape to it. I think that would make it feel really, really nice and grippy on the brake, and it just has that perfect surface to apply it. I do think that would be a cool additional option MZW could implement, and they can offer different grip tape colors and even cut out their logo into it. I think that would be pretty cool. And lastly, the clutch is just a little bit more narrow than the brake pedal. It's not really an issue at all. It's just the clutch. There's not really much to say about it. But that's pretty much it. Overall, I was pleasantly surprised with each product. Initially, I was kind of thinking it was more just an aesthetic thing, but it turned out that each one did have their own benefits to ergonomics in some way or another. And I was super happy overall. I would totally run any of these as a permanent mod to my Fanatec gear. I highly recommend you check out their website and their Instagram and just see what's possible with all the different customizations options. There's really some cool looking wheels that people have done. And I'll leave a link in the description for those down below. If you enjoyed this video, I'd greatly appreciate a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see some more sim racing content, then go ahead and subscribe to the channel. I've also started live streaming a little bit more on Twitch, so if you'd like to watch some racing or even join in on the action, feel free to follow there. But until the next one, take it easy. Peace.